blessed to have one of the newest people for RIG Studios. You gotta check out the logo, check out the hat. RIG Studios, that is coming
I
in,
love it.
bringing their voice, bringing their ideas, bringing their content, and everything that they're bringing good to this world, to allow us to get their voice out and help them. Brian McMullen with Keep It Simple podcast. Brian, thanks for joining me this afternoon. How are you doing today?
Thanks. I'm doing great. Thanks, Eric, for having me on. As you know, I'm always watching what you're doing and watching your growth, and you're amazing. So, who else would I rather work with on
I
this topic?
appreciate the I appreciate the vote of confidence. I know I have the sexiest engineer in the Ohio Valley, Jake Horton. He is pumped about being able to bring your views and your style uh, into the fold of what we do here at the studio. Um, you, if you don't mind, give us a little bit of your background. Where are you from? What are you doing? Um, who are you personally? And then let's start getting into what your podcast will be about.
I love that because podcast is the new thing that I'm working on as well. But it's really not what I do every day, all day long. So I appreciate you saying that. So I live in Prescott,
Okay.
Arizona. And it's Prescott, not Prescott. Please don't ever say Prescott. That's what the
Yeah.
rookies say. So I live in Prescott, Arizona. I've been here for about a half a year now. Before that, I was down in the Phoenix Valley, and it just wasn't fitting my family and my our jive. So we moved up here. Before that, I was in San Diego my whole life. So I'm a transplant into Arizona and loving it so far up here, up in the mountains. I have been lending. Well, let me back up. I was an insurance agent for with Allstate. I was an Allstate insurance agent for
Okay.
27 years and built a great business. Loved doing that for many years, and what I really loved about it is the same thing I love about my business now, which is I'm I'm building relationships and working with people who I know, like, and trust. So I did that for many years, and at some point I realized probably time for me to step away from that business. I wasn't excited about it anymore, and real estate had come into my life. And so I started buying real estate, realized this is the direction I wanted to go, and sold my insurance agency about 3 years ago now, and started building my portfolio. And while I did that, I realized, wait, I like building a lending business. And so I started lending my own money and then helping other people do it, and started building that business. And at some point, I ran across um, my mojo,
Yeah.
shall we say. I started finding out that what I didn't like and what I did like. And what I didn't like is risk. I'm an insurance guy. Risk mitigation is my thing. So how do you do this business and funding projects without taking too much risk? Well, you build relationships. Just exactly what I did in the
So let
insurance
me stop you
business.
right there.
Um,
I've heard you say this 2 or 3 times. You know, funding, lending, and your business model is now funding deals and doing this thing. Just so everybody that's listening to this, because there's going to be a lot of people that don't understand what you do. Just off of that, are you in with banks, mortgages, or are you doing more private lending, more like one-on-one type things?
I love it. I thank you for clarifying that, because I realize that there are a lot of people out there who don't understand what we're doing, behind the scenes and how we do it. So I'm what I would consider a PML, a
Okay.
private money lender. I'm not working for Bank of America. I'm not working for these big, humongous refinance companies. What I do is how I started is I said, hey, how do I make my money that's sitting in my bank account, earning the bank money? How do I make that money grow for me and not for them? And so I found a project that needed some money to fix the property up so they can sell it for a higher price, and I lent some money
Okay.
on that deal. And I set up my own. I negotiated my own terms and what that looked like, and it worked out great. I said, "Oh, this is good." And then I started realizing that this is a business of relationships, and that's when I met, actually. And I'm not going to go into it too deep, but that's when I met you, Eric, because you and I have been doing this for a while, in this realm. I help you. I always say I scratch your back, you scratch
100%.
mine, right? So, yeah. If you have funds that are sitting in banks and doing nothing but earning the bank money, that's what I decided not to do anymore, and so that's what I'm doing, and I help other
So
people do
with
it.
that being said, say I was somebody that has been successful in life. I'm an insurance agent that is 25, 30 years in the business. I've built an incredible book of business for myself. I may not own the insurance agency, but I've definitely I got a huge book of business. I have money sitting in the bank that the banks get what 1%, maybe half percent on a regular savings account now.
Yeah, it,
Yeah,
we're working
right.
really hard.
I think even if you put it in a secured CD, like short-term CDs, I seen yesterday that Chase is offering like 3.6% on a short-term CD. So it's 5 months. You'll get 3%, but you have to have at
Right,
least $100,000 in there, right? So that
that's right.
that's not a lot of money. You're gonna make 3 grand in 5 months off of $100,000, right? So if I was that person and I was
Well,
bringing
hold on,
that if I brought
that's
that
true.
same
Hold on, buddy. That's 3% annual. It's not 3% in
even
5
better,
months.
yeah, in 5 months, you're
Right.
only getting
Yeah,
less
so in
than
the
half
5
of that.
months, you're gonna earn less
Yeah.
than 1.5%.
So,
Yeah.
if I was to bring that $100,000 to you and say, "Brian, I need I need help. I want this money to make me money," you know, what kind of returns can you bring your clients that would have that opportunity?
I love that question. I'm gonna answer it in an
Okay.
odd way. It if you wanna take risk, I can earn you 40% return. You know what I mean? I can kill it. Eh, but there's that risk that you don't get 40% return and you don't get your money back. So that's not what I do. But there's lots of deals out there like that, and you gotta be really careful. So with anything, there's risk, right? You leave your money in a bank account, there's risk of not growing. What I do is I've built up relationships and a way of securing your money with real estate that your risk is minimized to a great deal. And yes, double digit returns is what I'm all about. You're not going to get 3% in five. Well, I guess you would you say 3% annually on a 5 month CD. You're gonna be very happy with your returns based on that
Yeah.
information.
So, somebody theoretically, if they wanted to take risk, could get as high as a 40% annual return.
If they're willing to put their name out there
Yeah.
and just go for it, I've done I've done it. I'll tell you right now, I started with my own
Yeah.
money, okay? And I had to learn things along the way. I've done over 90 loans, okay? So that may not be big when you're Bank of America, but that's big for someone who's been doing it for 3 years. Um, yes, and I have gotten these great returns, but with great returns and great reward comes great stress and great risk. And so I will tell you that's just not the game I like to play. I'm again insurance risk manager. That's what I do. I'm all about minimizing the risk, and that's what I've been able to figure out over time with all the number of projects I've done. I've minimized that risk by the relationships I've built, the underwriting I've put into place, the securing documents that we put in place to make sure that this property is giving us that strength, that comfort.
Awesome. So if I'm high risk, I'm at 40%. If I wanted as little risk as humanly possible, what are we talking about there?
You know what? It's not in the bank. Honestly, I would like to say the bank. The bank's a great place because your money, your 100,000 is going to go in there. It's going to sit there for a year, and it's going to be $100,000 at the end. So that's pretty secure, except for the fact that
But if I brought it to you, like what could I do for you? Because I'm looking at being better than the bank,
I love
right?
that. That's the
I'm
goal.
looking at I'm looking at Brian McMullen being my my saving grace. I want my money to make me money.
Yeah.
But if I'm as risk as I can be, if I'm risk it, biscuit, like grip it and rip it type investing, right?
Yes.
And I can get a 40% return, which isn't crazy.
Yeah.
That means you're getting $40,000 off of a $100,000 investment in a year's time. Like that is an insane amount of money that you're going to get. You're like, but the risk is there, right? So if you go to the other end of that spectrum, right, and you're with somebody that you've built a relationship and there is practically no risk because this person has performed over and over and over for you, and you can rest your hat easy at night knowing that that person is as good as their word, as good as gold, right?
Right.
What kind of a return could somebody get on the low side of the
Let
risk?
me back up. That person is good as gold, and the underwriting is good as gold, and the securing documents and the way we do things is good as gold. Because it really is not. It's not a one thing solves all, right? It's
Yep.
putting it all together. But yes, I mean, to me, I want I look at this as a partnership. So a partnership is my borrower is going to make money on their project, and they're going to be really happy that they did that work. My lender's going to make money on this project, and they're going to be happy. And I can, by the way, I don't work for free. I'm just going to put it out there. Um, I can get paid and doing the same thing. There goes a shadow that went right by my head. Um, and so, with all that being said, it's there's a lot to that because every project is a little bit different. But
Okay.
let's assume what you said. You've got a gold borrower who never fails. All the paperwork and all the documents and all the title work that we do is perfect. And on top of that, the borrower has a a longer timeline. We could be under 10%, 8% annual, and that's absolutely a number that I would say would be a minimum. Um, that would be probably my number. I again, most of my projects aren't perfect like that. They always have some kind of contingent of risk, and so my goal here is to get you as good a return as I can based on the risk that you're taking, and making sure that you're very aware of what that risk is. Um, if that I hope that answers your question because
Oh,
I mean
absolutely.
I could say
Well,
I could say
it
4%, and if people are happy there, then I can do that all day long. But I got to be honest with you, I'm shooting a little higher.
well, if we just take what you said as if it's an absolute perfect deal with a perfect person in a perfect environment, paperwork is spot on, there's no hiccups, and that never happens in real estate, just so everybody knows. It never happens, right?
The
But let's just
unicorn.
say that's the perfect storm and that's going into your basement that you're gonna get a return for somebody is an 8% return, let's just say, right? If everything's perfect. I'm sitting here thinking to myself that I used to be really big in the stock market, and my best average for the year in the stock market was, I believe, 8 or 9% return, right?
Consistently, yeah.
And there was no guarantees in the stock market. It's heavily manipulated. If a CEO of a company gets caught in an adulterous relationship, all of a sudden the stock tanks, and you have no way of controlling it. You have no way of protecting yourself. Whereas with you, if I am getting in that perfect deal and my basement is that 8%, I feel like I have to be secured somehow, right? I'm protected because if it's the perfect deal, that money should be protected to where I know I'm not losing the original 100,000, correct?
Absolutely. It's so funny you said that because in when I was an Allstate insurance agent, I didn't just sell insurance or work with insurance. I did investments, mutual funds, variable accounts, things like that. And one of the reasons I didn't like that business, honestly, is because I could not predict what was going on in the stock market, what caused that stock to change, overnight. What was the thing? And no one can. With real estate, it's a lot more secure. It's a lot more consistent, and I think that's what drew me to real estate as a long term plan for myself. And so when I went that from owning property, having consistency to lending consistency, it's the same thing. There's definitely a let's say I don't know. It's a tangible asset that you can rely upon.
And that only makes sense. I think the housing market, as far as the value and the growth that the housing market is has made, I think it's outperformed the S&P 500 the last 25 straight years. right? So it would make sense if you're in the business that you're in and you're funding those real estate transactions, right? To secure the people with the real estate that makes the most money. Like that seems like the perfect type of business, right? I'm sure it's super easy.
Oh, yeah, just super easy. I don't have to think at all, right? No, I was
Yeah.
I love what you said because, like I said, I mentioned earlier, I'm coming up on well, I'm a little over 90 projects I've done now. And, not that's aside from my 70 doors that I own, right? Um, I the underwriting is really important, and understanding how to do that and what to look for is a huge part of that game. But yes, you got a stable asset that you and then you have a stable person who you're dealing with, and on top of that, you have good underwriting. Well, okay, sometimes not so stable, right? Um,
Yeah.
and you have solid underwriting and a knowledge of how that works, and then a solid knowledge of the paperwork that you need to secure that. You put
I
all
love
those
that.
together, we are so consistent. It's almost scary how consistent we can be, but
And
yeah, it's
the
all it's a
the
little bit
thing that I like working with you the most about is you've turned this into a business by putting your own money up for the education, right? Because you came from insurance, you didn't know about the underwriting for real estate. You didn't necessarily know the contracts or how to protect people or do any of that stuff, right? You learned that through your trial and error with your own money. So you can say, "Hey, I build these relationships. I'm not a project driven person, right? I'm a relationship driven person,
so
right?
so
I know the
true.
people that I do business with, and that's why I know that your money will be safe and I can vouch for these people, right?
That's so true.
That's
Like I said, I'm yeah, when I was in the insurance business, I started buying real estate. So I started looking into underwriting and how to underwrite projects, right? So that was the first of my education. But you're right. When I started lending, I was learning that fresh. And so I did have some understanding of the markets and understanding of real estate and how to underwrite a deal that you're going to buy, fix up, and refinance those kind of things. But yeah, this is definitely a skill game, and you don't get and I always tell my kids this all the time. Um, um, how do I say this? My kids are smarter than me, better looking than me, taller than me, more blue eyes, blonder hair, longer hair. They're skinnier than me. They got all the attributes, but experience comes with doing things and living in this world. And I would say, I got lucky in my first three loans. I really did because I didn't know enough. And so, yeah, you got to take some action and learn and step in. But yeah, experience is really big, and putting your own money out there, nothing, nothing more tangible than worrying about your money.
I used before I got into real estate, I worked in a construction union and I went through an apprenticeship and they put me with this old guy named Al Newbanks. And
Love that. I love loving a good Al Newbanks, man. He knows what he's doing.
Yeah. Al, he came from a family of bricklayers and just an just a tough old man, right? He was probably 1 or 2 years from retirement, and they put him with me to make sure that I learned the right way.
Yeah.
And I've learned so much from those older people because they've been through more than I could imagine. And he would tell me all the time, his experience is not the best teacher, but it's by far the most convincing, right? And I've lived my life with that statement. I've repeated it to my kids more than I can count, right? And it's not the best teacher. You can get a far better education doing other things, going and reading in books and doing whatever, but you'll never be more convinced about what you know than you having the experience.
Yeah.
And and it's so true in what we do and how we move through day to day, right? So I love your background. I love what you're doing now as far as your lending business. Let's talk about your podcast. Keep It Simple podcast with Brian, Big Daddy McMullen, right? What got you motivated to do a podcast and what's your podcast going to be about?
Yes. I love that. So, a couple things. One is, as you can see in the gray in my beard, I'm not the guy who grew up with social media.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I have times when I despise it. And I can go into that in depth, but we're not going to do that today. But I didn't grow up having a phone in my hand and talking to it, and so I saw that my business needs. I need to put myself out there more, and I'm not saying market. I'm not saying sell myself. I'm not saying that, but I have to be. People have to know who I am. And that comes from a number of sources. Old school people will I want to go shake your hand and sit down and have lunch or a coffee and but that it's hard to do that at scale. And so how do I, being an old guy who doesn't really enjoy social media, who doesn't really like holding the camera in front of his face, um, start to get out of my own way, my own box. So I have to tell you, there is some selfishness to this. I wanted to figure that out, and I have a strength, and it's not social media. It's not being the smartest guy in the room necessarily. It's relationship building. I do that well. And how do I do that with people who I'm not sitting across a table from? I gotta get out I gotta use these tools that are out there now. So, that was the catalyst for me thinking, "Okay, how do I do this and do it comfortably so I can be my real self and not somebody else's version of Brian?" And so, and then I thought myself, as I was starting to make this transition from my previous career to my real estate career, one of the things I really liked is explaining what I was doing to people and talking to people about that. And I remember one of my clients who, because I started buying real estate before I sold my business. They said, Brian, I love what you're doing. I love that action you're taking. That's really unique. That's different. And I said, obviously it's not unique. We are all doing this, in the real estate business, but it is unique to most people. Most people are, you know, they were raised, they either go to college or they don't. They go to the job that they were predestined to go do, and they do it for a long time, and they never look back. And I was one of those guys. And so for me to step out of my box in my 50s and start to do this, a lot of people were asking me, what motivated you to do that? So that was like my niche. I thought, okay, my podcast, I don't want it to be about real estate, real estate, real estate all the time, although that is a big part of who I am, what I'm doing, and what I'm excited about. Um, but I could take that moment and say, hey, let me just go talk to people who are trying to do something different. They don't have to be, um, you know, at the top or the pinnacle of the world doing what they're doing, but they have to be doing something that's not cookie cutter. It's not what their mom told them when they were 6 years old they're gonna do. It's they're trying to do something new, and that's really what Keep It Simple is all about. It's talking to people about what they're doing, how they're doing, and why that's kinda cool. I'm talk later, this week, I'm gonna be talking to a teacher, and, some people say, "Well, he's been teaching for 40 years." Yeah, he has, but he also has some side things that he's gonna talk about that are unique and interesting, and gosh, I think I can learn from someone who's been teaching for 40 years and is now doing these other things because of that. So to me, that's what Simple Life is about, or Keep It Simple is all about, is just really building on the relationships that I can earn while I'm doing that and learning and using a tidbit of what they're doing and throw it to someone else. And maybe Eric, who's been doing the same thing for his whole life, goes, you know what? Brian did that different. I'm gonna try that. Or I'm gonna call Brian, talk to him how did he make the change to go from insurance to this? And was it successful? I had one real quick moment. I'm gonna say this. I have an insurance friend who called me about 6 months ago. So that's 2.5 years after I sold my business. And he's in the business and he's thinking about doing some of the things that I've done. Not in the real estate world, but just, hey, is it time for me to get out of the insurance business? And his first question was, do you regret it? And I instantly thought, yes, I do. And his answer is, what do you mean you regret it? I said, I don't regret leaving the insurance business. I regret not building relationships in the real estate business quicker. I regret that it took me longer period of time because I was trying to do it by myself. And if I would have just stepped out of that box sooner, I would be better. And if I just had someone talking to me and saying, Brian, you cannot do this by yourself. You're never going to be where you need to be. And a matter of fact, Eric, you are one of those people, right? You're the one that going to say, hey, Brian, we can't do this all by ourselves. It's not, we don't have the time, ability, skill, whatever. Let's team up. And so I think that's what I'm trying to get out of keep it simple is if I can give someone an idea or share someone else's idea of what they're doing, maybe someone will spark someone to do something special.
Absolutely. I th- I th- I love the concept of being able to tap into other people and tap into what they're doing. And the the longer you've done something, if you've been a teacher for 40 years, you're gonna know how to keep that the simplest possible because you've experienced all of the curb stops, all of the speed bumps that it takes for you to get through a day of teaching, right? You're going to keep it as simple as possible because you know that's the path of least resistance. And being able to pull that experience and learn from that, it's awesome. That's
Yeah.
an incredible concept. So I'm excited to dive into that. Um, what's your goal for the podcast? Or I know you said there's a selfish side behind it to where you want to kind of put yourself out there and be more forward facing so people get to know you. You and I both know, in real estate, you with the lending side, me with the everything else side, um,
Literally.
that your net work is your net worth,
Yeah.
right? The more people that you communicate with, the more people that you're friends with, the more people that you interact with in this space, the more opportunities you have to be able to grow and build your own business, right? Just relationship wise, you know what I mean? So, where do you see you starting this podcast and bringing that wealth of knowledge that you're talking about? Where do you see that in the next 12 months
Yeah. Yeah.
for you and for the podcast?
Excuse me. So I will say this that you and I'm just gonna call it out. There's a bubble on the next to my head here, right? It's because I'm not an expert podcaster. The lighting's better now than it was 3 months ago when I started playing with this. Um, my topics are gonna get more defined. Um, but along the way, as I learn more about what I'm trying to accomplish in a bigger light, a visionary Zane, you're a great visionary. You're amazing. You always impress me with how you can pinpoint exactly where you're going to be in 5 years. That's not a strength of mine. So for me, my strength is build relationships and keep talking to people. And this gives me that. That's the selfishness. I can meet people as I learn, as my podcast becomes maybe a little bit more professional. Maybe I have my own studio in the background like you. Maybe I don't have a bubble around my head. Maybe I have more higher level, if you want to call it that, and guests that are known nationally. Who knows where this is going to go? But it's got to start something. And like I said, I maybe I didn't say it before. I have two talents, and that's it. One of them mentioned to you earlier, which is building relationships. The other one is I take action. And so this is me taking action. This is
That
me.
beats 95% of people. Oddly enough, it's not what you know. It's not being the smartest. It's not being the best looking. God knows the gray beard is absolutely a detriment in itself. I'm getting at myself. So I'm telling you, I understand the pain, but taking action is 95% of it. You beat 95% of the field if you take action.
It's so
Um,
true. It's so freaking true. And that again, this is, I have some high school friends and they saw my first podcast I posted a couple months ago, and my daughter interviewed me on the podcast. And I got so much grief from my friends that I went to high school and college with, because Brian's winging it, and it looks like he's But hey, it's okay. I'm okay with this not being perfect. I'm not okay with not doing something and moving the ball forward. And again, I'm going to take that back to when I started investing. You know, uh, it was like a calling. I needed to do something, and I needed to take some action. And I say this when I talk about someone, going to school, getting a job, staying there for their whole life. That was me. I'm not kidding you. I didn't buy my first piece of rental real estate um, with intention until I was 52 years old. So maybe that's the thing that people are going to learn from me is that it's not too late to start this. And I I I wish I would have figured this out when I was in my 30s or 20s.
don't don't say that it took you till 52 to buy your real estate. People, I'm sure, think you're still in your 30s. You're just like a fine wine. So you don't have to throw those numbers out. We can we can edit that out. Jake is like I said, the sexiest engineer in the valley. He's really, really good at editing that stuff out, but I digress.
Yeah.
Um, I would say when we were at Squad Up Summit, which we're in sub two Pace Morby's community, that's where we got connected. Um, you and I actually went to Squad Up Summit this year, 2025, in Dallas, Texas, and one of the keynote speakers that was there is Cody Sanchez. And Cody Sanchez is she is phenomenal speaker. She's a phenomenal businesswoman. I wrote many books. Has social media presence like somebody I aspire to be like. And her, the biggest takeaway of her being on stage and speaking was um, she explained, this is what's made me successful. I take action where other people don't. By the time other people sit down and they think about the pros, the cons, this could happen, that could happen. This is how I would fall short if that went happen and da da da. She said, I've already done it, messed up 3 times, fixed those problems, and I'm light years ahead of you by the time you get out of the gate. And that's the whole reason why she's successful, and that's what she hangs her attitude and her entrepreneurship behind. So
Yeah.
I take a lot
Um,
of I take a lot of seed in that. I think that's probably the thing that separates me a lot from most people as well. I don't wait around. I'm very, very fast. When I have it in my mind that we're doing something, guess what? You have until tomorrow to talk me out of it because it's happening.
yeah, it's
There's no
I have personally dealt with that multiple times now.
yeah. And I think that's the thing that you and I probably gravitate with each other the most. Um, you're an action taker. You know what I mean? Now you're more risk adverse than I am. You're, hey, let me make sure I understand what the possibilities could be, but after I know that, I'm gone, right? I'm more of, hey, I'm gone. I'll figure that out while we're doing it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
we'll
yeah,
pivot and
for
fix it.
sure.
So
And I
but
sometimes hope that I'm giving you the breaks, but I found that whenever I give you the breaks, it's not necessarily a good thing. Oh, in the long term. So
yeah,
your ability to jump and move is amazing. It impresses me all the time.
hey, it's why we're on this ship together, man. But
Absolutely.
super excited about the podcast. I'm super excited about what holds in the future. Go ahead.
Can I just say something outside the podcast? I appreciate you helping me with the podcast and give me creative ideas because it's been amazing, and it's just one more reason why I gosh, bromance going on here. But I love working with you, and I love doing things with you. I want everybody to know I have lent money to this man multiple times. Um, consistent, consistent. Issues come up, they come up, but they've always been taken care of. We've done so much business together. I think I met you I bought a property from you,
Mhm.
and, that property still is in my portfolio, and I needed, boots on the ground to do some rehab, and guess who did that for me and got that going for me? It was you. And, I did it again, and we that one I ended up selling, and in that process, I started watching your business and learning your business, and I started funding some of your projects, and at this point in time, I think we're at project 27, 28.
I think so.
I've purchased, 3 houses from you,
Mhm.
and I own 1, 2, 3, 4 properties with you.
Eight
I think we're at
eight total doors, I think. Not
well,
counting not
right
counting the new
counting the
project we're doing.
which is another 15,
Another
right?
15,
So
yeah.
we're on the 20 doors, that we own together.
Yeah,
Um, and when I talk about building relationships, this is the picture that I tell people about. This is someone who I've purchased from. I've had them rehab for me. I've lent with them. I've owned with them. I am planning future ownership and future plans and future businesses with him. So I say that to put you out there that you're an amazing guy, and I can't wait to see what's coming next for you. And I'm hoping that I'm tied into that.
oh,
um,
you're not going anywhere.
yeah, there we go. But on top of that, that's the way this business has to go. Loyalty and relationship building is paramount, and I've seen it on both sides. So thank you.
100%. And vice versa when I'm talking with people, um, and intimately, we won't get into it on camera and recording because
Uh, we don't need to
yeah,
do that.
but I've had my run-ins of good partnerships and bad, right? And the bad ones seem to always take a weight, but I take full ownership of them. You know what I mean? They're my fault. I got into bad relationships because of me.
Oh,
Not
but
because
because you
I
took
I
action,
picked the
you go
bad
forward.
people, but because I didn't protect myself or didn't put myself in a position to where I made sure that I was good to go with things, right? And I'm working my way through and getting with that, and I've learned um, so much because of it.
You have experience, Eric.
That I do.
Experience because you're doing things, and so that is part of the process. So I know sometimes it gets under your skin, but you would have never done what you're doing and been able to do what you're going to do in the future if you didn't make those mistakes.
100%, and I chalk the experience up to that, but in the same sense as I'm talking to a lot of people now. I mean, I've been doing this for 3, 4 years. You know what I mean? And done on hundreds of deals now. I can't even count how many deals we've done up to this point, and processing and building and going. I feel like I have a weight of experience and knowledge that I can teach people that are just starting out. And one of the things that I get a lot is, I want to partner with this person or I want to partner with that person, and I can weigh in on it and say, hey, I love where you're at about wanting to be collaborative and not competitive. I love where your mindset at is you want to be partnering with somebody to grow because you know that there's value there and you want to grow with it.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what that looks like so you don't run into the same problems I've run into, right? And I use you as my example of what the good partnership should look like, on what the best parts of it can look like and can develop into. As much as I use my past experiences, names withdrawn. I don't say names, but the experiences I can talk about. I'm not going to name names and bury anybody or put anything in the ground because, like I said, I hold myself
And
just
that's
as accountable for those bad things as I hold those people for their actions. You know what I mean? I should have been better, and we're moving forward with it. But the same way as I do that with them on the negative side of it, you're absolutely like in the dictionary for good partner. You know what I mean? And
mm,
and me be able to build that out. So I'm excited about what you're building. I'm excited about you getting out of your comfort zone, getting in front of cameras, doing interviews with people. I'm interested to see your interview style because not doing it before and not being that social media guy. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Um, you have the way of talking with people and connecting with people, but you being able to drive those conversations and those relationships when you're not face to face with somebody is going to be very interesting for me to watch and see how you develop because it's all about development in that. So I'm excited.
Love it. I'm excited too. It's kind of it's so I'm gonna give you one more little tidbit.
Okay.
Um, so I said I'm with Eric. We were actually in the same town talking with each other, and I said, "Listen, how do I get through this moment where I need to get past my comfort zone. I need to bring more people in. I need to put myself out there, lack of a better term." And my friend Eric says, "Brian, how many homes have you purchased?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm at that point in time, I was like close to 50." And he says, "Okay, and how many loans have you done?" I said, in the range of 80." And I said, "So you're talking about, 130 different projects you've been involved in. How many times have you explained what happened in that project? Put it out there, put a testimonial about how things went right or wrong. How many times have you asked people who you've done business with to come and give you a testimonial?" You know what the answer was, right, Eric? What was the answer, Eric?
I think it was -3. I think 3 people
Yeah.
asked you to do it. You turned them down.
Seriously, you're not joking. I probably had people say, "Listen, I wanna give you a testimonial," and I didn't have the appetite or the skills to say yes. So, yeah, you probably are right. So that's part of this whole thing too, is just changing who you think you are into the who you want to be. And so you and I are on that path, and I love it. I love it. Love it.
Yeah, we're gonna get there, man. So, um, outside of when you're going to be posting. I'm sure that we will on the studio web Facebook page, and we'll have you add it to our RIG Studio um, domain webpage, so that way people see you are involved and be able to get with you. That how else can people reach out to you? How else can they get in contact with you if they want
Love it.
to lend money and have that conversation on what that looks like in an in-depth manner, or maybe they have a project that they want to start building that relationship.
Absolutely. So, I mean, my website is probably the one place that you could start to learn about me without me being, on the phone with you or on a Zoom with you or at coffee with you, which is simplelifeinvesting.com. Simplelifeinvesting.com, and that's it has a couple places to interact, a couple places to reach out. You can book a call with me from there. Obviously, the social medias. Um, you know, I think I'm Simple Life Investing um, on Instagram, and I think you could probably find me that way on Facebook too. I'm
Yeah.
not, again, as you can tell, social medias aren't my strength, and I'm learning.
Yep.
But really, my website's probably going to be the best place for you to learn a little bit about me, what I'm doing, and connecting.
Sweet. I appreciate it. SimpleLifeInvesting.com. You guys heard it. Reach out to Brian. At least have a conversation. If it's something that you want to get into, great. Something you want to learn more about, absolutely. If it's a project or something that you would like to get funding, because he's going to be able to explain to you the benefits of being able to go private money versus going to a bank. Right? There's a lot that goes into it that we don't necessarily just have the time to jump into because we could talk about this for 5 hours. You know what I mean?
Let me just
But
say this, Eric. Let me just say this, that I grew my insurance business, and this I say these numbers not to impress you, but to show you. I bought the business and had $1 million book. So that's the way that they at least kind of looked at the numbers. I sold it at a $9 million book. And I did that over 25 years. And I will tell you right now, I never sold. I'm not a salesman. I don't like salesmen. I don't like when they push me. I never sold. I explain what I do, how I do it, how it benefits you. And that's the same approach I have in my business now. You get on the phone. I'm not going to push you into doing something you don't feel comfortable with, because the last thing I want is the client of that's panicked, right? So, yeah, connect with me. Let's talk. 15 minutes of our time, and we'll know if there's a reason why we do another 15 minutes. And if
100%.
that's it. That's all I ask of people is be open to a conversation. That's it.
That's it. SimpleLifeInvesting.com. Brian, I appreciate your time. We'll get the release dates for your podcasts as they're coming up. This is obviously going to be on my Main Street to Millionaires. We'll cross brand it, so this may be your pilot episode to put out there for people to see the Keep It Simple podcast as well. Other than that, man, I look forward to your growth and seeing where it goes from here.